So I went to Disney World, Wide World of Sports Complex. I believe that was the summer of 1998, right after I had gotten back to Dallas, Texas from the Bahamas. And like I said in our last episode, I was chosen with another group of young men from our football team to play in the Disney World Wide World of Sports Complex. It was a great 3 or 4 days. I remember we flew out of Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, and when we flew out, I remember everybody was hyped. We were all excited to be on this flight. We were excited to be a part of this event. And here I am dating my Caucasian girl at the time. Like I shared with you in our last episode, she and I had fallen into an infatuation with each other. I think primarily due to my quirkiness. I was different. I had an accent. I was tall, and I looked much older than my age suggested. And we began our relationship. And for me, relationships were always something that I took serious. I mean, you followed along with my story so far. You've heard how I've expressed my love for my former girlfriends up to this point. Different accessories, hair gifts, hair bows that I would buy, cards that I would buy, letters that I would write. Well, it was no different with this young lady. And when we got to Disney World, although I'm there as a young person having fun, my mind is still very much on her. Thinking about her, wanting to let her know that although I'm gone, that I was still very much considering our love or our desire for each other. So I bought her several gifts. And I remember walking around feeling very prideful, considering that, hey, I'm only 15 at the time, 16? I've got the wherewithal to consider my girlfriend, who's back home in Texas, while I'm on a trip here in Florida, enjoying myself. And there were other girls. We had the cheerleaders from our school there. There were girls from other schools that followed some of their football players, but my mind was complete tunnel vision. I was focused on her. And we had a great time with the games. I remember I didn't record any stats in the games. We played 2 exhibition games. And I remember one of the particular offensive linemen, I was a defensive lineman. So what that means, basically, my job was that once the quarterback hiked the ball and the offensive play had begun, my job was to try and sack the quarterback or whoever had the ball. And I remember breaking off of the line after the ball was hiked, and there was an offensive player that did a move which they call a chop block.
A chop block occurs when an offensive player blocks a defensive player in the thigh or below, while that same defensive player is engaged by a second offensive player above the waist.
And in essence, what a chop block is that this person who is trying to stop your forward progress goes for your knees. And I remember when he did that, he slowed down my forward momentum. But not only did he do that, he hit me pretty good in my kneecaps, and I was in pain. And I remember that was when I began to realize that, this career, this football thing, I don't think this is for me. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready for that type of technicality, for that type of physicality. And so I remember asking to come out of the game because the offensive player had chop blocked me so effectively that it hurt. I mean, I was in pain. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm here to have fun. I'm not here to become the next great football player. If this is what fun is, if fun is connected to all this pain, then I don't want anything to do with it. And I could tell that my coach knew what was going on in my head, because when I got out of the game, I remember they were very upset. They were disgruntled because in their mind, they're thinking, well, you're going to be a star player. You got to have some drive. You got to kind of suck it up and go through the pain. And of course, I mean, no doubt, no pain, no gain. That's what we're taught in this world. But again, I knew my purpose was not to be a football player. I knew that that was not my calling. That was just something that I did because it was what was closest to me that I could get some positive attention for. So I remember after the pain, I was like, yeah, you could take me out of the game. And that was pretty much the end of my football career. Now, somebody listening may say, oh, you were a wussy, you were a sissy. Hey, call me what you want to call me. I knew what I wasn't prepared for. And I wasn't prepared to be injured, walking around the house during the week, hurt, nicked up, scratched up, beat up, just so that I can play a couple of hours, a few snaps here and there on Friday nights. It wasn't worth it as far as I was concerned. And so I remember getting out of the game. And for the rest of that trip, I think we stayed there 4 days. For the rest of this particular trip, my whole spirit changed, my whole demeanor changed. I started focusing more on the future, as in what I would do once I got back to Texas. What would I do with my girlfriend? What would I do? How would that relationship go? I was very much beginning to focus in on her completely and fully at this point, because I had realized that, you know what? Yeah, this football thing, this is not for me. Well, anyway, we got back to Texas. And I remember when I got back to Texas, I started hearing all of these rumors stir up about some fella named Matt. Now, why I still remember this guy's name, but I can't remember the girlfriend that I was actually dating, I can't remember her name, I don't know. But I do remember that there was a Caucasian fella on campus. I started hearing rumors about Matt and my girlfriend while I was gone in Florida. And you know, curious as I was, I decided to investigate. I decided to see what was going on. I decided to check into it and see whether or not if what was being said was true. And I began to notice things. I began to notice that Matt was hanging around a whole lot in places where my girlfriend would be. I began to notice that. I began to notice him in the cafeteria, sitting close by to where me and my girlfriend was. I began to notice that after school, wherever me and my girlfriend would congregate, Matt would be someplace close by. I'm a very attentive person. And once I began to pay attention to the fact that this Matt fella was sticking around quite often, I began to put two and two together. I'm just like, okay, something's got to be up. You know, I mean, there are things that we can take overboard that can be simple coincidences. But in this situation, things were adding up a little bit too correctly. I began to realize that there's something must really be going on. Until I got the tea, okay? And the tea, in essence, is I got the scoop. I began to figure out a bit more as to what was really happening between Matt and my girlfriend. My girlfriend at the time, she was in the band. I don't remember what instrument she played, but I do remember that she had band practice one particular evening, and it was on a particular evening when I had done some investigation. I had found out what was happening. I had went to another source, someone who I trusted, and I found out some things about my girlfriend's behavior while I was gone in Florida. And because I trusted this source, I decided I was going to confront my girlfriend. And I couldn't find her. It was after school. And then I remembered, oh, she's in band practice. And so band practice has got at least 60 to 75 students all in the band practice room. And I remember walking into that room while they're practicing. I had a photo of my girlfriend that she had given me. I walked into the band practice room, located her in the crowd, and when I identified her, I pointed in her direction. I grabbed her photo slowly out of my back pocket, picked it up and put it in her face, and ripped it in half slowly and dropped it in the ground and walked out. I was dramatic, yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I was hurt. I was feeling some kind of way. And as a result of finding out about her treachery, I said, you know what? I'm just gonna end it right here. And that's exactly what ended up happening.